Welcome back to the I Coach 30 for 30 series. I'm joined today by Coach Adam Harvey. He is currently the defensive coordinator at Hutto High School, one of the premier programs in the state of Texas and on the rise. So, Coach Harvey, thank you very much for joining me.
Coach Nash, I appreciate you reaching out, man. I'm looking forward to this. I have a lot of respect for you and appreciate what you do for our game, man.
Man, I appreciate that very much, Coach. I know we've kind of run in the same circles for some years now, and I've always been a fan of what you do with you have talent at DB, but you also coach the crap out of some defensive backs, man. So I've seen that, and I respect it very much. Just kind of tell us how you got to where you are now at Hutto.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I started my coaching career in the early 2000s. I moved up to the Midwest actually, and after finishing college, went over to Indiana and coached basketball for a couple of years. Growing up, I was a multi-sport athlete, and basketball kind of took the reins. Coming out of high school, I had an offer to go play some basketball, and so I did that, and just kind of wanted to make my own path, I guess. I was a stubborn, hard-nosed 18-year-old kid, that just wanted to kind of step out of the norm, so to speak. And the norm was football and baseball in my family. And so anyway, I went up to Indiana for 2 years and coached ball up there. And then honestly missed football and kind of missed the whole multi-sport show. It was just a basketball school that I was at. And so my wife and I came back down to Texas in 2005. Settled in the San Antonio area, and I spent 8 years at a middle school here in San Antonio. Just kind of thought it would be a couple of years stop. Really stumbled upon it. I was working part-time as a youth pastor at the time, as a matter of fact. And so through that, I met the head tennis coach at this affluent private middle school. And so when I went and interviewed, it was kind of cool because, they were doing basketball practice, and sat down with the AD, and we're sitting there watching basketball practice, and he was like, yeah, there's David Robinson Jr. and there's Sean Elliott's stepson. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And so had that opportunity there in 05 and ended up staying for 8 years, man. I started the football program there in 2009, or I should say resurrected it. They had one back in the day in the late 70s, early 80s, and then did away with the program. We brought it back in 2009. That was a lot of fun. So I did that for 4 years, coaching everything under the sun, man. Football, basketball, lacrosse. Actually, I picked up lacrosse, which I knew nothing about, but just enjoyed being around kids and coaching, any sport that I possibly could. And then in 2013, got the call at Steele High School that I made a connection with, and so went over there and interviewed, and it all worked out. So I was there for the last 7 years. As you mentioned, had some really good DBs. Was really fortunate to coach some studs, man. But also I do feel that we made some progress there, although that they'd already won a state championship. Went back in 11 and unfortunately, didn't pull that one out. But, the 7 years that I was there, man, played a lot of ball games and got to the state semis twice. Was able to see the state championship once in 2016, and unfortunately came up short to a great DeSoto team there. But a lot of fun. And then, got connected with Coach LaPlante several years ago, and we just kind of kept the relationship. And then, one thing led to another. He called me up this off season, and here we are. So I'm excited about joining the Hippos. Really excited about, those kids in that community. They just really love ball, but they love life too. And they do life well, from what I've seen so far. And my wife got on with the district, and, my kids are really excited as well. So we're looking forward to it, man. It's just a new chapter in this thing we call life. And, we're looking forward to seeing how things pan out. Absolutely.
That's a fantastic story. I always, I'm a guy who started in the middle school ranks as well. And I spent a couple of years at an affluent at private school, and, it's a totally different experience, but I think it helps mold you into the varsity level coach that you want to be and the type of leader that you want to be. Coach, man, tell me a little bit about how being a believer, how being a Christian affects the way that you coach kids.
Yeah. First of all, I agree, man. I think, cutting your teeth at that level, it teaches you a lot of patience, a lot of humility. So I agree with that. You know, I think with your question, you know, being real, man, just being vulnerable, you know, being a Christian in America, a lot of times can look something like, you know, perfection. And it's not, it's not even close, man. In fact, I would almost vow and vouch for those that say, man, I'm not perfect. And then take it even a step further and show your vulnerability, coach. You know, I get so sick and tired, man, of, you know, we can call it fakeness and stuff, and we can call it religion, and that's a cliche, but I'm going to go beyond that. And even the pursuit of holiness in an American mindset, I think is extremely skewed. I think we are called to a pursuit of holiness. And if we're not really striving to be what Jesus called us to be, then what the crap are we really standing for? You know what I'm saying? But with all that said, my problem with it is I've got everything put together. I'm prim and proper. And, you know, we all live in a glass house anyway as coaches. I mean, truthfully, you know, we're standing, and there's a lot of cliches that can come out right now. We're standing for something, no matter what it is, right? So the old saying is, you know, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. We are standing for something. And I think it's, generally speaking, it's easy for us coaches to say, this is what I stand for. But I just go back to the words of Paul, you know, and it doesn't matter which church he was writing the letters to. And by the way, I find it amazing that he had to spend 13 books of the Bible to continue to write letters to the church, by the way. So everybody wants to talk about these unbelievers and all the unsaved, and we need to go do this, we need to go do that. Well, crap, if the church is doing what it's supposed to, number one, he wouldn't have to wrote that many letters that close to the life of Jesus, who, by the way, showed us exactly how to do it. But yet he did, and here we are 2,000 years later, and we still don't get it. We still don't understand it. So what is it that I want to do as a believer and a coach, and how do I want to live my life? Real. I mean, in short, it's real. And if I have a prim and proper mindset, and these kids look at me and they think that guy does no wrong, number one, that's fake. What am I doing? I'm really not pointing them to Jesus. I'm pointing them to something that I want to be. And therefore, if I'm in the way, then Jesus isn't glorified. And if Jesus isn't glorified, what the hell am I doing? Pardon my language, coach, but that's how I see it. What am I doing if he's not glorified, man? You know, Christ be crucified and be crucified in my life on a daily. And if that's the case, my sins are the ones that crucified him. And so I've got to make sure that I'm being real. That's not a cop-out, man. That's not to say, oh, I can go and act a fool and then, you know, Jesus' blood sets me free. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there's a really fine line, and we've got to be careful, particularly in America. And I can say this because I've been overseas. I've seen it in Brazil. Man, I've seen it in Albania, which was the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It's not like I just went to all these, you know, great countries, Norway and Australia and all the places that have money. I've seen it in slums of, you know, second world Brazil and then third world Albania. And man, I tell you, we missed the mark a whole lot, and we don't see it, you know, and that's okay too. I get that, but I'm not here to be that guy because I've seen it and I know what it looks like. So I can go on and on, Coach. That gets me fired up, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, you know, it's funny how that kind of correlates to what we're going through as a nation right now. Because with me, I'll just, you know, speaking very candidly about myself, my Christian values, I feel it has so much to do with how you treat your fellow man. I feel that you show respect, you show love always. And we're having an issue within our nation right now where we're upset over a mascot. We're upset over our Southern heritage and pride and a flag that represents one thing to one group and one thing to another group. And it's causing us to hate each other. And I'm struggling with that, Coach. You know, that's tearing me apart because that's not what Christ commanded of us. So I saw a particular exchange, and all I could do was from a view watch this on Twitter as it was going. But a random fan was attacking one of your former players about the stance that they were taking for their university and what they believe in, and you came in and you boldly spoke, and that meant the world to me. I know it meant the world to the young man that you were speaking on behalf of. So how do we get past this divide that's ripping our country apart?
Wow. $1 million question, Coach. First of all, I am right there with you, my man. And it wears me out to no end that we want to be bigots and we think that our way is the only way and the right way and this and that. whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about somebody's, color of their skin or their economic status, all of it. I just look at the situation that we're in as a nation, and I've got to go to something I actually tweeted this morning. I've got to go, and I don't even know who this is. It's a quote by somebody, and I wish I knew who it was, but we have to listen to understand. We have to listen to comprehend rather than listen to respond, right? If I'm just sitting here listening to you and all I'm thinking about is the next thing I say, I'm not really listening. I'm hearing you. I hear you. We say it all the time, man, I hear you. I hear you. But do you really listen to me? Are you really listening to me? And I think that, as you mentioned, whether it's a flag or whether it's words or whether it's a statue or, a song or whatever, are we listening? And you can make that argument for both sides, Coach. I'm not here to just jump. Again, I talked about the bigots. I'm not here to be a bigot about nobody's wanting to listen. But hey, writing's on the wall. Are we listening? I feel like number one, as a white man, I owe you an apology, Coach. I feel that way, man. I was texting with one of my buddies last night that we went to grade school together, who's another white guy. And one of the things, we actually got into a little bit of a political discussion, and that's not me either. My wife gets mad at me all the time because I'm really very much in the middle politically, but she's like, I wouldn't say gets mad at me. She questions me, challenges me. That's a better way to put it, Coach. But I'm a very black and white guy in a lot of ways, but not in the ways that maybe that some people think I should be, I guess. I'm very much in the middle of a lot of those things that we call political or whatever, to the point where it's hard for me to vote for either side, man, because I'm just like, man, these jokers, nobody knows what the heck they're talking about. They just want to say something because they know they're going to get clicks. They know they're going to get votes, this and that. And, and I don't want to get too political on it, but I think where we need to go right now is just freaking, like you and I are doing, sit down, talk, and listen. Because if you're not going to listen, you're not going to have a conversation. Talking is not a conversation. Talking and listening combined makes the conversation. Now we can move forward knowing how you feel and knowing how I feel. Now we can move forward, because the apology that I made to you a second ago was really the way we treat you, but it's all deriving on we're not listening. I don't know that the majority of white people would come out and say, I'm a racist, but I could guarantee you the majority of the white people cannot truthfully say, I've listened, including me, Coach, including me. We have to listen. And when we do that, yeah, we can still come up with our own opinions. I think I'm going on a tangent here, Coach. I apologize.
Go for it, Coach. No, go for it.
I think people need to, and I'm gonna brag on our profession for a second. People need to see us in the office when we're talking about how to stop an offense or how to attack a defense, right? Mm-hmm. It gets heated. It gets heated. But when we walk out the door and the Sharpie remains on the tray, leave the freaking Sharpie on the tray, man. Like, there's no reason to carry a Sharpie in your pocket because you got to pull it out at any moment to defend your purpose. What the heck? What are we doing? Leave the Sharpie on the tray and drop your feelings with the Sharpie. You know what I'm saying? Usually in the trash right below it, right? We just aren't doing that in America. We got to go to our screens. We got to go to our phones and our computers, and then our, whatever else, our T-shirts, and and now all of a sudden it becomes more than just a song or more than just a T-shirt or more than just a statue. Now it's your well-being because you weren't willing to listen to begin with, Mm-hmm. So we've got to listen, we've got to hash it out, and then we got to leave our Sharpies on the tray. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey, that was well said, because I agree 100%. And oh man, you made me think of an instance here when you issued that apology. I felt it. That kind of touched me a little bit, because it's nothing that you've ever done. It's nothing that you were responsible for, but you still take ownership of some of the sins of the past. And for me, like, I'll just tell this quick story. I was embarrassed the other day. So I get out of my car and I'm going into Sprouts because I'm trying to eat healthy or whatever. Try to go get me some nice fruit and veggies or whatnot. And I'm going in and I purchase my stuff. I come out and I'm walking to my car and there's a Caucasian lady walking into the building. And I've conditioned myself because I'm a 6'1.5", 6'2", 240-pound black man with a beard. And I smile a lot, but that's still, I can still be intimidating. I kind of veered away and walked the long route to get to my car. And she kind of stopped and said, "Hey, good afternoon." I said, "Good afternoon." She said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine. How are you?" She said, "Doing great." And then went on into the store. And I thought, how embarrassing that is, that I've been conditioned that in my mind, I feel like everybody sees me a certain way, but maybe that's just few and far between. Maybe I don't have to go veer outside of my walk. I can just be who I am and smile and say good afternoon to somebody, and they'll say good afternoon back to me. They won't clutch their purse or feel frightened or feel the need to pick up their cell phone to call 911 because they see me walking their direction. And man, just the only emotion I could put with that is that I felt embarrassed that the state of our nation where I'm made to feel this way. And maybe because I grew up in one of the most racist parts of Southeast Texas, where there are some towns that we would go the long way if we were going to visit family in Louisiana. We didn't go through Vidor. We didn't go through some of the towns in Southeast Texas. And I've conditioned myself that that's how it is. And that's not how it is. And God tells me that's not how it is. And I didn't. So I got to issue an apology for that, because we take these things that we see and we hold them as a big blanket fact, when I mean, what it is just each individual's content of their character, man. And we have to start judging people based upon that and not how they look. And you hit it on the nail on the head for me.
Well, and Coach, that's, I think your conscience, it is what it is, man. And I commend you for that. I want to find the silver lining in this too, Coach, because I've griped a lot early in this conversation. I really want to be a positive guy in this. Here's the thing, man. With that conversation, even though it was short and in passing with that lady, would that have happened if our country's not going through what it's going through? Probably not, right? So I think there can be some really good things with this. She obviously probably felt very similar to the way you did in saying, okay, I'm going to be extremely nice to this man, knowing what he looks like, because that's not something that we can hide from, nor should we. It's like people that say it's not about color. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. And it's okay that, here's what it's not about. It's not about what we can or cannot control until we can or cannot control it. Then it becomes about that, right? And so why is it not about color? If you really truly believe that, well, did you decide to be black? No, I didn't decide to be white. No, that was not my decision. Now, do we have a decision to be prideful in where we come from? You know what I mean? That's when it matters. And so it's those things that we decide, the choices that we make is what make us who we are, not anything else. And so it does matter because we've made it matter. But again, those conversations that we can come up with, I think, are what's going back to your original question or your previous question, I think that may be one of the things that could save the world, right? Is, hello, how are you? And it's a 6'2", 240-pound African-American guy talking to a little petite white lady or whatever she looked like. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's those things that, may not seem like a whole lot, but that conversation doesn't happen 6 months ago,
Yes.
and, thank God that it did, man. And so let's look for those conversations, and those aren't the tough conversations, but those are the conversations that I think can regain the trust, and begin to heal the process a little bit. And that's the silver lining in all this. So, man, I appreciate your conscience in that, but I also want to say that, the embarrassment of that can turn into something that we can begin, I think, flipping the script a little bit with just conversations, walking into the store of, hey, how are you today? I think we can flip the script in a lot of ways just by doing that. And so I commend you for that, man.
Absolutely. And man, you found the silver lining. That is the silver lining. We're having conversations like you and I are having right now. And this broadcast will go out where people can hear and listen to understand, and not just listen to have an opinion about what's being said. And that's what our nation needs. I think you may have solved it, Coach Harvey. I think you may have just solved it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We got to execute it as coaches. We know that, Coach. We can
Yes,
sit
sir.
in front of a whiteboard, or we can teach it on the field all we want to. But the kids don't execute it. We still got the same problem. So maybe we got to execute it, man. And it starts with me, man. It starts with us. If I'm talking, that's my thing right now. Is like, it was very heavy, and as you mentioned, I took care of that young man that I care deeply about. He's like my own son on Twitter. That ain't enough, Coach. That's just a small gesture, and that's just a small movement of the things that I've got to do to show love to people all the time, man. And, I've kind of started this whole hashtag, of fight for love, man. Fight the good fight. To quote the word, if we're gonna fight the good fight, man, we got to understand that, like Ephesians 6:12 type stuff, man. Ephesians 6:10. We gotta take Paul's words again to the church of Ephesus and do those things that he called them to do. We got to put on that full armor and not fight these idiotic fights that we want to fight in America. And Christians are right in the freaking middle of it, man.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, you just want to sit here and use God as your cop-out and your scapegoat? Get out of here with that mess, man. I ain't got time for it,
No.
So anyway, man, it gets me fired up, buddy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Coach, man, this has been the fastest 30 minutes I've ever run through on anything, because it's been such a passionate conversation about things that matter. And so I just have to thank you again for joining us here and just sharing the passion that drives you, man. Just sharing the love of Christ with everyone who needs to hear it. And this is one thing I do, Coach. It's the first series I put together for 30 for 30. I watched all of them. And there's always this cool tagline. It's either, broke. There's the U part 2. If this is Coach Harvey's 30 for 30, what's our title?
Wow. Real,
man,
real. I want change, Coach. I do. I want real change. I don't want facades. I don't want cute sayings for our next T-shirt. I don't want any fluff, man. I want the real deal. And that's something that I've talked to the kids about at Hutto. Whether we're on the field, whether we're off the field, like, we're gonna be real. And so that's if I get my choice one day, what's on my tombstone? Adam Harvey, 1979 till ? Whenever that is, hopefully a long time. And then underneath it, he was real. And that's enough said for me. I'm good with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of my, I guess I tweet this a lot because my kids, Coach, I always mention it. Put me anywhere, I'm the realest person in the room. I think that's challenged right now because you're a real one, Coach Harvey. I appreciate it.
Oh, shoot, man. Amen, brother. And again, go back to the healing process. We got to be, we can't try to be fake, man. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So,
yes,
might for a little while. It may for a long time for some people, but eventually you will be found out. You will be found out. So
always.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Harvey, again, I have to thank you. This was special. I can't wait to share this with our listeners. And if you want to follow Coach Harvey, I've one of my best followers on Twitter. Coach, you mind dropping your Twitter handle?
No, not at all, man. But we appreciate it, Coach. It's at Coach_Harvey18. That's 18. So it's my anniversary, and I'm a big Peyton Manning fan too. So at Coach_Harvey18 will be that on Twitter. Hit me up, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, this has been 30 for 30. Coach Harvey, we appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Coach. Appreciate you. Let's change the world, buddy.
Yes, sir.